Greetings, esteemed colleagues of the Grand Galactic Council. I am Council Member Zoltar Vex, Senior Cataloger of the Sentient Species Division and, unfortunately, the newly appointed Earth Relations Coordinator. For those unfamiliar with my illustrious career spanning 3 galactic rotations, I've successfully documented and incorporated over 47 sentient civilizations into our benevolent cosmic community. None, and I mean absolutely none, have caused me to lose sleep cycles like the humans of Earth. Let me explain our mission for the newer representatives present today. The Galactic Council's primary directive is to categorize, and how do I put this diplomatically, tame all sentient worlds we encounter. By tame, we naturally mean guide them toward peaceful integration into our grand community of species. Nothing nefarious there. Just your standard cultural assimilation, technological regulation, and complete restructuring of planetary governance. The usual bureaucratic process, nothing to concern yourselves with. Now, about Earth. Oh my stars, Earth. For those who haven't reviewed the preliminary reports which, judging by your blank expressions, is most of you, Earth has been classified as troublesome since its discovery. The humans have this absolutely maddening quality of appearing to comply with our regulations while simultaneously doing exactly what they please. Their ambassadors smile and nod during our meetings, and then return to their planet and implement policies that technically meet our requirements while completely missing the spirit of our guidance. But, great news! After 17 standard cycles of diplomatic nightmares, Earth has finally been declared officially tamed as of last rotation. Yes, you heard correctly. The assessment committee, which I suspect may have been bribed with something called chocolate, has determined that Earth now meets the minimum requirements for full council membership. Their military has been scaled back to defensive capabilities only, their governmental systems align with our democratic templates, and their environmental protection protocols exceed our basic standards. Why am I speaking through clenched teeth, you ask? No reason at all. None whatsoever. As is tradition with newly tamed worlds, the Council has initiated the Interspecies Diplomatic Envoy program. This program, for the uninformed among you, involves each Council member species sending representative creatures to other worlds as goodwill ambassadors. These envoys help facilitate cultural understanding between different biological paradigms. Most species send simple organisms or limited AI constructs. The humans, in their infinite wisdom, have chosen to send wolves. Yes, wolves. Large canine predators with impressive dental arrangements, and the most unsettling intelligent eyes I've ever seen on a supposedly non-sentient creature. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The point is, Earth is tamed, completely under control. Everything is fine. The fact that I've doubled my anxiety medication is purely coincidental. Tomorrow, we welcome the first contingent of Earth envoys to the Council Station. I've been assured by Ambassador Penelope Quinn that these wolves are, and I quote, totally harmless companions who just want to make friends. The way she smiled when saying this did nothing to ease my concerns. This will be fine. Absolutely fine. What could possibly go wrong? The Grand Galactic Council prides itself on understanding. We comprehend the intricate mating rituals of the gaseous Flotians. We've documented the 17-stage life cycle of the quantum beetles of Proxima. We've even managed to translate the musical language of the Harmonites without causing a single diplomatic incident. But humans remain an enigma wrapped in contradictions and sealed with a smile that never quite reaches their eyes. Let me explain how spectacularly we've misinterpreted Earth's compliance. 6 cycles ago, the Council demanded Earth reduce its military capabilities by 60%. The humans nodded, signed the agreement, and promptly decommissioned exactly 60% of their visible military hardware. What we failed to notice was how they simultaneously reclassified their remaining weaponry as scientific research equipment, peacekeeping tools, and my personal favorite, extreme sports gear. Yes, apparently humans consider orbital drop vehicles a recreational activity now. When we mandated standardized education across their planet, they developed a curriculum that checked every box on our assessment forms. Brilliant. Except they also maintained what they call extracurricular activities and special interest clubs, where they continued teaching whatever they pleased. My sources tell me there's an advanced basket weaving club in their educational institutions that somehow covers tactical warfare strategies using nothing but plant fibers and clever metaphors. For transparency, we required all Earth communications to be conducted in standard galactic common. The humans agreed enthusiastically. They learned our language with suspicious speed and now speak it perfectly during official meetings. Meanwhile, they've developed at least 16 new slang dialects that technically qualify as galactic common but are completely incomprehensible to our translators. Yesterday, Ambassador Quinn told me something was totally yeetable, and our linguistics division is still trying to determine if that was a compliment or a threat. Speaking of Earth representatives, I must address the matter of Ambassador Alara Frost. She replaced Quinn last month and has been, to put it mildly, a diplomatic hurricane in perfectly tailored attire. Ambassador Frost arrives at every meeting exactly 3 minutes late, just enough to be noticed but not enough to be officially reprimanded. She brings beverages called coffee that smell divine but cause most council species to experience mild hallucinations if consumed. And she has this particularly human talent for agreeing to proposals while subtly rewording them to mean something entirely different. During yesterday's resource allocation meeting, she somehow turned our demand for Earth to reduce carbon emissions into an agreement for the Council to fund Earth's innovative atmospheric adjustment research. I'm still not entirely sure how we ended up approving that budget. What troubles me most isn't Earth's creative interpretation of our regulations. It's the growing suspicion that everything, every smile, every eager agreement, every apparent misunderstanding is calculated. I've reviewed the historical records of human diplomatic relations, their own with each other, before they joined the Council. They have a phrase, wolves in sheep's clothing. It refers to dangerous predators disguising themselves as harmless creatures. The irony of them now sending actual wolves as ambassadors is not lost on me. During my latest inspection visit to Earth, I traveled to a region they call Montana to observe their wildlife preservation efforts. As the human guide proudly showed me their conservation techniques, I noticed something peculiar. The humans weren't controlling the wilderness, they were learning from it. They weren't taming their world, they were becoming more like it. As I prepare for tomorrow's Envoy reception, I can't shake the unsettling feeling that we haven't tamed Earth at all. We've simply given them a bigger playground. And they're bringing their wolves. The Grand Council chamber buzzed with excitement as the annual Envoy selection ceremony began. For those unfamiliar with this particular bureaucratic spectacle, imagine the most tedious talent show in the galaxy, but with more paperwork and fewer entertainment breaks. As Master of Ceremonies, I, Zoltar Vex, had the dubious honor of announcing each species' contribution to the Interspecies Diplomatic Envoy program. Esteemed council members and honored guests, I announced, my voice echoing through the cavernous chamber, today we celebrate the spirit of unity as each world offers its representative companions to foster greater understanding between our diverse civilizations. The Rigelians went first, proudly presenting their biosynthetic companions. These floating orbs of pulsating light could recite the entire galactic constitution from memory and dispense nutrient supplements appropriate for any known digestive system. Practical, sterile, and about as emotionally engaging as tax legislation. Next came the Zortaxians with their friendship flowers, sentient plants that could adjust their scent to trigger positive emotional responses in most oxygen-breathing species. One of them tried to befriend council member Gloop, who, being a methane-based life form, experienced the botanical greeting as a minor chemical attack. We had to pause proceedings for 20 minutes while the medical team helped Gloop re-solidify. The pattern continued predictably. The aquatic murines offered miniature autonomous submarines containing their smallest polyp offspring. The silicon-based crystalloids presented perfectly engineered mineral constructs that could change color based on the emotional atmosphere of a room. The hive-mind Vespulans brought singular drone workers with limited decision-making capacity but excellent massage techniques. Then came Earth's turn. Ambassador Alara Frost strode to the center of the chamber, her posture relaxed yet somehow commanding. Unlike other representatives who brought sample envoys or holographic projections, she arrived empty-handed. The people of Earth, she began with a smile that made the hair on my neck bristles stand on end, are honored to participate in this grand tradition. While many of you have chosen to create or modify companions specifically for this program, we believe in the value of authentic representation. She paused dramatically. The council leaned forward in collective anticipation. Therefore, Earth proudly volunteers our wolves as our diplomatic envoys. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. I shuffled through my notes frantically, certain I'd misheard. Ambassador Frost, I interrupted. Perhaps there's been a translation error. Wolves are your planet's apex predators, are they not? Large pack hunting carnivores with significant dental armaments? Exactly right, Council Member Vex, she replied with that same unsettling smile. Canis lupus. Magnificent creatures that have shared our world for millennia. They represent the best qualities of Earth: adaptability, loyalty, intelligence, and community. Council Member Drazak of the Saurian Confederacy raised all three of his appendages. Is this some form of intimidation tactic, sending predators as peaceful representatives? Frost laughed, a sound both melodious and slightly threatening. Not at all. Our wolves have been selectively bred for generations to work alongside humans. They're highly trained, exceptionally well-behaved, and eager to meet you all. Besides, she added with a wink, they're much more pleasant company than many politicians I know. The chamber fell silent, uncertain whether that last remark was a joke or an insult. Probably both, knowing humans. We accept Earth's unusual proposal, the High Counselor finally declared, though I noticed she subtly increased the distance between herself and Ambassador Frost. The wolves of Earth shall be welcomed as official envoys, provided they meet all safety protocols. As the ceremony concluded and representatives filed out, Ambassador Frost approached me. Council Member Vex, I hope you'll attend tomorrow's arrival ceremony. The pack is particularly excited to meet you, since you'll be working so closely together. The pack? I asked weakly. Oh yes, she replied. Wolves never travel alone. The council reception hangar had been modified extensively for Earth's envoys. We replaced the standard antiseptic atmosphere with Earth normal composition, adjusted gravity to their preferences, and even installed what humans call indoor plants to make the wolves feel at home. My assistant, Morgax, suggested we add some scattered bones and dirt piles for authenticity. I declined this recommendation and made a note to review Morgax's understanding of diplomatic protocols. As the Earth shuttle docked, a palpable tension filled the hangar. The Marines had retreated to the highest observation platforms. The Vespulans clustered together in defensive formation. Even the normally unflappable Zortaxians emitted their anxiety pheromones, creating a purplish haze near the ceiling vents. The shuttle doors opened with a dramatic hiss of equalizing pressure. Ambassador Frost emerged first, flanked by two human handlers dressed in matching dark uniforms with a curious emblem on their shoulders, a howling wolf silhouette against a full moon. How subtle. Esteemed council representatives, Frost announced, it is my honor to present the Alpha of the Northern Mountain Range Diplomatic Corps. Please welcome Timber and his pack. What happened next will forever be burned into my four memory centers. A massive gray-furred creature emerged from the shuttle, walking on four powerful legs, standing nearly a meter tall at the shoulder, with amber eyes that seemed to evaluate every being in the room simultaneously. This was no simple animal. This was Timber. Behind him came 7 more wolves, each moving with purposeful grace. They formed a perfect semicircle behind their alpha, their disciplined formation more precise than many council security teams I've observed. No leashes, no restraints, just perfect, synchronized movement. Council member Drazak fainted. Nobody moved to help him. Approach slowly if you wish to greet them, instructed one of the human handlers, a tall woman with facial markings humans call freckles. Extend your hand or appendage for them to sniff first. Show respect, and they'll return it. The High Counselor, ever diplomatic, stepped forward. Welcome to the Galactic Council Station, Alpha Timber. We are honored by your presence. Timber regarded her silently, then inclined his massive head in what appeared to be a bow. The other wolves followed suit in perfect unison. Several council members gasped audibly. Did they understand her words? I whispered to Ambassador Frost. Of course, she replied, as if I'd asked whether water was wet. Wolves are exceptional at reading intentions and body language. Plus, Timber has undergone extensive training in diplomatic protocols. He probably understands the situation better than half your junior counselors. I couldn't tell if she was joking. Humans and their confounding humor. Over the next hour, council members cautiously approached the wolves. Some interactions went better than others. The Regellians attempted to scan Timber with their biosensors, which he clearly disliked. A low growl from the Alpha sent the entire Regellian delegation scurrying backward so quickly that two of them accidentally merged their exoskeletons and had to be separated by medical staff. Meanwhile, a smaller gray and white wolf approached the Zortaxian ambassador with surprising gentleness, allowing the plant-based being to experience contact with an earth predator without triggering a defensive toxin release. Remarkable. That's Nova, explained the second human handler, a broad-shouldered man with darker skin. She specializes in interspecies communication with non-mammalian life forms. She can sense when someone's nervous and knows how to put them at ease. Your wolves have specializations? I asked incredulously. Of course, he replied with a laugh. Just like your diplomats. Echo over there is a territorial negotiation expert. Willow specializes in resource disputes. Storm handles security assessment. Each has their role in the pack. I watched as the wolves moved through the reception, somehow appearing both wild and meticulously trained simultaneously. They maintained perfect awareness of each other's positions, communicating with subtle ear movements, tail positions, and occasional soft vocalizations. How do you communicate with them? I finally asked. I see no translation devices. Ambassador Frost exchanged a look with Timber that lasted a beat too long to be coincidental. We have a deep bond with wolves that goes back thousands of years on Earth, she explained with that now familiar smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Before we had writing, before we had civilization as you recognize it, humans and wolves hunted together. Some scientists believe we co-evolved, learning from each other, adapting together. They're not just animals to us, added the freckled handler. They're partners. Timber looked directly at me then, his amber eyes reflecting the overhead lights. I had the unsettling feeling he understood every word we were saying. Worse, I had the distinct impression he was laughing at me. Don't worry, Council Member Vex, said Ambassador Frost, noticing my discomfort. The wolves are here to help bridge our cultural differences. Think of them as interpreters of the unspoken. Interpreters, I repeated weakly. Yes, she said, placing a hand on Timber's massive head. After all, sometimes what isn't said is more important than what is. Nobody understands that better than wolves. 3 rotation cycles after the wolves' arrival, the Council held its quarterly resource allocation summit. For those unfamiliar with Council procedures, imagine the most aggressive marketplace haggling you've ever witnessed, but conducted by beings who control entire star systems and hold thousand-year grudges, diplomatic pleasantries thinly veiling resource wars. Politics as usual. The Earth delegation arrived precisely on time, which should have been my first warning sign. Humans are chronically, almost pathologically late to all official functions. Ambassador Frost led the procession, followed by her 2 handlers and 4 wolves including Timber. They took their assigned seats at the circular negotiation table, the wolves positioning themselves at strategic points around the human delegates rather than clustering together. Across the chamber sat the Morgax delegation. The Morgax, for context, are a silicon-based species renowned for their technological prowess and infamous for their aggressive expansion tactics. They entered the Council only 30 cycles ago after peacefully absorbing 3 smaller civilizations. Their chief negotiator, Supreme Commander Drak Thor, stood nearly 3 meters tall with obsidian skin that reflected light in disorienting patterns. His 4 upper limbs ended in precision manipulators capable of both delicate technological work and, rumor has it, dismembering opponents in close combat. The Morgax had been eyeing Earth's solar system since the humans joined the Council. Particularly their asteroid belt, rich in rare minerals the Morgax use in their quantum computing systems. The chair recognizes the Morgax delegation, I announced, secretly hoping they wouldn't live up to their reputation for diplomatic bullying today. My hopes were immediately dashed. We motioned to revisit the Sol System Resource Protection Act, Commander Drak Thor rumbled, his translation device barely keeping up with his guttural native language. The Morgax Cooperative requires access to Earth's asteroid reserves for the greater benefit of the Council. This was a direct challenge to Earth's territorial sovereignty, cunningly disguised as concern for the collective good. Standard Morgax tactics. Ambassador Frost smiled politely. The Sol System's resources are already allocated according to the Treaty of Ganymede, which the Council ratified last cycle. Commander Drak Thor's reflective skin pulsed with darkening patterns. Treaties can be amended when necessity dictates. The Morgax fleet has identified optimal extraction locations that would benefit multiple Council species. Fleet? I interrupted. Has the Morgax Cooperative positioned military vessels in Earth's solar system without prior notification? The chamber fell silent. Unauthorized fleet movements near member worlds violated at least 6 Council statutes. Commander Drak Thor rose to his full imposing height. Exploratory vessels only, conducting standard surveys as permitted under Section 12 of the Shared Knowledge Protocol. Interesting interpretation, said Ambassador Frost, still smiling. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the escalating tension. Our satellites recorded 17 Morgax warships entering the Kuiper Belt 3 days ago. That's well beyond exploratory parameters. The Morgax commander slammed one massive limb on the table, causing several delegates to jump in alarm. The humans question our intentions? Your species has barely achieved interplanetary travel, yet you presume to dictate terms to a civilization thousands of years your senior? This was the moment where, according to standard diplomatic protocols, security would intervene or the threatened party would retreat to de-escalate. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The wolves moved, not in aggression, not with teeth bared or hackles raised as my admittedly limited understanding of Earth predators would suggest. Instead, they repositioned with deliberate precision. Timber circled slowly behind Commander Drak Thor's position. Nova and Echo moved to flanking positions near the chamber exits. The 4th wolf, Storm, remained directly beside Ambassador Frost, watching the Morgax delegation with unblinking focus. They weren't attacking. They were hunting. The humans didn't call them back or appear concerned. Ambassador Frost's expression hadn't changed at all. If anything, her smile had grown more genuine. Commander Drak Thor, she said pleasantly, as if discussing weather patterns rather than responding to an explicit threat. Earth respects the Morgax Cooperative's ancient heritage. We're relatively new to galactic politics, as you've pointed out. Perhaps that's why we still value certain traditional approaches to diplomatic relations. The Morgax commander's attention darted between the wolves, which had now effectively surrounded the Morgax delegation in a loose but unmistakable formation. "Control your beasts, Ambassador," he demanded, though I detected an unfamiliar harmonic in his voice. Was that uncertainty? "They're not beasts, Commander. They're diplomatic envoys, just like you and me," Frost replied smoothly. "And they're perfectly controlled. If they weren't, you'd already know it." The handler with the freckles, I'd learned her name was Ranger Parker, added casually. "Timber's pack is actually showing remarkable restraint. On Earth, wolves typically respond to territorial threats with much more direct demonstrations." "Is that a threat?" hissed Commander Drakthor. "Not at all," said Ambassador Frost, examining her fingernails in a display of casual disinterest that bordered on insulting. "Just an educational observation about interspecies relations. We humans learned long ago that working with wolves is far more productive than working against them. They're surprisingly adaptable when treated with respect." The subtext hung in the air like a toxic gas cloud. I looked around the chamber, noting how every council species had recognized the thinly veiled message. The Morgax were being outmaneuvered, not by human technology or traditional diplomatic threats, but by four-legged predators executing what appeared to be a perfectly coordinated containment strategy. Commander Drakthor's skin rippled with rapid color changes, the Morgax equivalent of agitated deliberation. Finally, he lowered himself back to his seat. "The Morgax Cooperative will postpone resource discussions until the next summit. Our vessels will withdraw to the agreed boundary pending further negotiations." The wolves maintained their positions for precisely 10 more seconds before casually returning to the Earth delegation as if nothing had happened. As I called for a short recess, my third stomach churned with anxiety. I pulled Ambassador Frost aside. "What just happened?" I whispered urgently. "Diplomatic negotiations, Council Member Vex," she replied innocently. "Isn't that what we're here for?" Those wolves were executing a coordinated flanking maneuver. "That's a military tactic, not a diplomatic one." Frost patted my shoulder sympathetically. "Zoltar, in nature, the line between diplomacy and strategic positioning is much thinner than in your council chambers. Timber was simply making sure everyone understood the territorial boundaries. No different than your procedural rules, really, just more primal." As she walked away to rejoin her delegation, Timber turned his massive head toward me. "And I swear by all 13 moons of my homeworld, that wolf winked at me." Following the Morgax incident, the Council demanded an emergency information session on Earth's wolf Envoys. I found myself moderating what would become the most disturbing xenobiological briefing of my career. The session took place in Amphitheater 6, with representatives from all 37 council species in attendance. Even the methane-breathing Voldurians, who rarely leave their environmental chambers, had sent delegates equipped with portable atmosphere suits. The room buzzed with nervous speculation. Ambassador Frost stood at the central podium, flanked by Ranger Parker and Timber. The massive wolf sat perfectly still, his amber eyes surveying the audience with unnerving intelligence. "Thank you for your interest in Earth's diplomatic partners," Frost began. "I understand there's been some confusion about the nature of our relationship with Canis Lupus." "Confusion is an understatement," interrupted Council Member Trex of the Saurian Confederacy. "We were led to believe these were domesticated animals, not military tactical units." Frost smiled that infuriating smile again. "I never claimed they were just animals. In fact, I specifically stated they were partners. Perhaps this misunderstanding stems from the Council's preconceptions rather than our presentation." She activated the holographic display, showing ancient cave paintings depicting humans hunting alongside wolves. Humans and wolves began our partnership approximately 30,000 Earth years ago. We didn't domesticate them in the traditional sense. Rather, we co-evolved. They chose to work with us as much as we chose to work with them. The wolves that approached early human encampments weren't captured or forced into servitude, explained Ranger Parker, advancing the display to show DNA sequencing charts. They self-selected for cooperation with humans. Over generations, both species evolved biological adaptations specifically for communication with each other. Communication? I asked. You're suggesting these creatures understand complex concepts? Wolves understand territory, hierarchy, threat assessment, resource allocation, and complex social dynamics, Frost replied. Concepts fundamental to diplomacy. Wouldn't you agree? The display shifted to brain scans comparing wolf and human neural activity. Wolves process facial expressions similarly to humans, continued Parker. They recognize emotional states across species boundaries. They understand pointing gestures, a surprisingly rare ability in non-human species, and can follow complex directional instructions. But they can't speak, protested the Rigelian delegate. Neither can 60% of Council species without technological assistance, countered Frost. Communication takes many forms. Wolves communicate through body language, vocalizations, scent, and behavioral displays. Their pack hunting strategies require advanced planning, role assignment, and tactical adaptation skills remarkably similar to our diplomatic corps. The amphitheater fell silent as the implications sank in. These weren't simple animals brought as curiosities. They were purposefully selected diplomatic partners with evolved capabilities for exactly this type of interaction. Are you telling us, I said slowly, that Earth's diplomatic strategy revolves around predator intimidation tactics? Ambassador Frost laughed. Not at all, Councilmember Vex. Our diplomatic strategy involves honest communication, mutual respect, and recognition of natural strengths. Wolves simply cut through the posturing that often plagues these chambers. They respond to genuine intent, not empty words. The council representatives exchanged worried glances. Many were species that relied heavily on what humans might call bluffing in their diplomatic approaches. Perhaps most importantly, added Ranger Parker, wolves understand pack loyalty. They know how to integrate diverse individuals into cohesive, functioning social units. They've been managing complex social dynamics since before humans built cities. Council member Drazak, who had finally recovered from his fainting spell days earlier, raised all three hands. Is Earth planning to replace its human diplomats with these wolves? Replace? No, said Ambassador Frost. Complement. Humans excel at verbal negotiation. Wolves excel at reading intentions and establishing boundaries. Together, we form what we call on Earth a pack, a cooperative unit greater than the sum of its parts. As panic spread visibly through the council ranks, Timber stood, stretched casually, and yawned, displaying an impressive array of teeth that could certainly remove limbs from most species present. The gesture could not have been more perfectly timed if it had been choreographed, which, I was beginning to suspect, it probably was. To ease concerns following the revelation, though I suspect the actual motive was quite the opposite, Ambassador Frost proposed a friendly exhibition of wolf-human cooperation. The event was scheduled in the station's largest biodome, configured to simulate an Earth forest environment. All council members were invited to observe from the elevated viewing platforms. For safety, they said. How thoughtful. Today's demonstration will showcase standard Earth Ranger Wolf Patrol techniques, announced Ranger Parker through the comm system. She stood at the forest edge with Timber and three other wolves, Nova, Echo, and Storm. These are non-combat procedures used for wilderness navigation and search operations. The wolves wore what the humans called working vests, lightweight harnesses equipped with small communication devices and atmospheric sensors. Nothing that appeared weaponized, though at this point I wouldn't have been surprised if they concealed portable fusion cannons. To simulate a rescue operation, we've hidden biosign emitters throughout the biodome, explained Parker. The wolves will locate and secure these targets using only natural abilities and basic communication protocols. What followed defied every preconception I held about non-sentient species. At a single-hand signal from Parker, the wolves dispersed into the forest with purposeful speed, not running together, but splitting into what military strategists would recognize as a perfect search grid pattern. Within moments, the wolves vanished from sight. The only indication of their movement came from small tracking indicators on the observation screens. They moved with precision that would shame most Council security forces, maintaining exact distance intervals, systematically eliminating search quadrants, and silently coordinating through occasional soft vocalizations picked up by the audio sensors. "Are they using technology to communicate?" he demanded the Regellian observer beside me. "No," replied Ambassador Frost, watching with evident pride. "Just thousands of years of evolved cooperation. They're reading each other's body language and vocalizations, backed by instincts honed through generations of cooperative hunting." The first target was located within 3 minutes. Rather than simply finding it, Nova positioned herself downwind, silently signaled the others by adjusting her tail position, and waited. 2 more wolves converged from different angles, effectively surrounding the target before Timber approached. Had it been an actual prey animal, it would have had no escape route. "They're not just finding the targets," whispered the Zortaxian delegate. "Their leaves trembling. They're hunting them." "Efficient target acquisition," corrected Ambassador Frost with a pleasant smile. "The same principles apply whether locating lost hikers or securing diplomatic objectives." The demonstration continued for 20 minutes. The wolves located all 12 targets with ruthless efficiency, adapting to different terrains, environmental obstacles, and even responding to changing instructions delivered through subtle hand signals from Ranger Parker. Most disturbing was their evident enjoyment of the task. These weren't programmed drones or trained servants. These were predators exercising their natural abilities within a cooperative framework. The wolves moved with unmistakable joy, occasionally exchanging what looked disturbingly like knowing glances with each other when a particularly clever maneuver successfully cornered a target. When the final target was secured, the humans applauded while the Council representatives remained in stunned silence. The wolves returned to their human counterparts, receiving praise and what appeared to be treats from Ranger Parker's pouch. "Any questions?" asked Ambassador Frost brightly, as if we'd just witnessed a cooking demonstration rather than a masterclass in predatory tactics. Official report. Earth status reassessment. From Council Member Zoltar Vex, Earth Relations Coordinator. To Grand Galactic Council High Committee. Priority: urgent. After extensive observation and recent disturbing revelations, I formally request Earth be immediately reclassified as untamed with all associated protocols reinstated. The evidence is conclusive. Earth has not been integrated into Council standards as previously assessed. Rather, they have masterfully created the illusion of compliance while maintaining their fundamental wild nature. The wolf envoys were not an anomaly but a deliberate statement. Earth isn't becoming more like us. They're showing us who they've always been, a species that partners with predators rather than subduing them. Most alarmingly, during yesterday's closing ceremony, Ambassador Frost casually mentioned that the wolf delegation was merely the first wave of Earth's interspecies diplomatic initiative. She outlined plans to rotate various Earth species through the Envoy program, including creatures called ravens, problem-solving avians with tool-using capabilities, octopi, and marine invertebrates with distributed neural networks and camouflage abilities, and most disturbing of all, something called domestic cats, which she described as wolves, but with less social responsibility and more spite. When I expressed concern about this unprecedented approach to diplomacy, Ambassador Frost finally dropped all pretense of conformity. "Council Member Vex," she said, looking me directly in all 4 of my optical organs, "Earth was never going to be tamed. Not by the Council, not by anyone. We simply allowed you to believe we were while we studied your methods and determined how best to engage with galactic society. But the assessment committee certified your compliance." I protested. "Yes," she agreed with that insufferable smile. "Chocolate is remarkably effective, isn't it? Particularly when combined with carefully curated tour locations and rehearsed interactions." As I stood speechless, Timber approached and sat beside Ambassador Frost, both of them regarding me with identical expressions of amused superiority. The truth is, Frost continued, humans never truly tamed wolves either. We formed a mutually beneficial alliance thousands of years ago. We've been doing the same with dozens of Earth species ever since. It's not dominance, it's partnership. Perhaps that's something the Council could learn from. As they turned to leave, Ambassador Frost paused at the doorway. Oh, and Zoltar. The next envoy rotation happens in 3 months. Wait until you meet our honey badgers. They make wolves look positively diplomatic. I've included 17 appendices detailing security recommendations. Please review immediately. End report.